Hey, welcome back to the Unstuck movement. I'm your host, Rob Z. This platform was created to help you break the chains in your life that are holding you back personally and professionally. So I love to bring people on the show who have incredible stories of breakthrough to give you an example for your life that it's possible for you. Today, we have the powerful Betsy Pepine with us on the podcast. And Betsy, before I even do anything else, I love to jump in with a powerful question so we can get right to the heart of the matter. I know that your number one core value in what you do is integrity. And it's so important in life for us to be integrous. But when you're an entrepreneur and you're building businesses, oftentimes, money and success can push integrity to the back of the list while you're still trying to make yourself or make it in what you're trying to do. So what do you do to make sure that integrity stays at the forefront of everything that you do?
Well, for me and for my companies, integrity has always been the number one core value. To me, you cannot be a successful entrepreneur if you do not have that. It may be short-lived, but it's hard to have a long-term successful career in entrepreneurism if you don't have integrity. So for all of our companies, that is our primary core value, and we hire by it, we fire by it. It is a non-negotiable for us. I'm in the real estate space, and what I have found is that integrity on all sides. We have buyers, we have sellers, we have lenders, we have title, and we have the other agent. And it's an odd industry where all the money transacted is coming directly out of somebody's pocket. It's not some higher level corporate budget and, it doesn't really matter. It's all coming directly and it's either a loss or a gain for someone's paycheck. And people act very differently, I found, because I came from the corporate world. People act very differently and sadly less integrous when it impacts how much money they take home from a certain transaction. So we do keep that on the forefront. I always tell my agents, what's integrous at $5 is also integrous at $100,000. So I think sometimes there's like a gray area where you might know the answer, the right way to do something, or the integrous way to act or be when only $5 is at stake. But when at $100,000 is at stake, suddenly sometimes I think people get more comfortable being in the gray. And I tell people at their initial interview, we do not operate in the gray. It's black and white.
That's really important, right? Because that's kind of the term cutthroat for me comes to mind, right? Okay, if there's a lot of money on the line, we'll do whatever we have to do to get the job done, and you can completely lose your integrity in that. So people have different definitions of how they define integrity. How do you define it?
That's great. For me, it's doing the quote unquote right thing. And I hate to say that because the right is so dependent on who you're talking to, but it's what, for me, it won't make me lose sleep at night. If I'm questioning, and that's what I tell my agents, if they come to me and they say, if they're questioning something, the fact that you're questioning it tells you the answer, because you wouldn't question it. If you knew for sure that you were acting integrous, you're not questioning whether you're acting integrous or not. You know that. So if I know in my heart, I'm not questioning my decision, I know that's the right decision. I remember being in grad school once, and I was taking a class where we rebuilt houses for at-risk families. So we gutted them and we rebuilt them. And it was on a Saturday, spent our Saturday afternoons there. And he went out to get everybody snacks. Unbeknownst to me, he did not. He drove around the corner and watched everybody work at the house. Well, sadly, virtually everybody just, relaxed, took a break. And then the minute they saw his car drive up, they start working again. Well, I was in the class because I wanted to learn. My passion was real estate. I was there because I loved it. I wanted to learn. I wanted to grow. And he came back and he said, class or whatever, how he addressed us. He said, you should thank Betsy for the work that was just done for the last 4 hours. And I didn't know. He said, I was watching you all. And it was a really great moment for me because you always hear that, act the way you act when nobody is watching, how you truly are. And it was a testament to me that, oh my gosh, here I was being tested. I didn't even know it. So it's like that. It's pretending like no one's watching. What would you do? And what are you going to do the right thing? Then you've got an integrous person, I believe.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. The way I always define it shortly, keeping promises to yourself. Like I know internally what I'm supposed to be doing. So I need
Mhm.
to keep those promises to me. And if I keep those promises to me, then I'm going to show up differently for other people, right? I'm going to show up better. But
Mhm.
if I'm breaking promises to myself all day long by myself, like
Yeah.
when nobody sees me,
Yeah.
then I'm going to do it to other people too. And I'm going to assume that's the interesting thing too, right? When you break promises to yourself, you assume other people do it for themselves. So you assume they're going to try to screw you over because you're screwing them over,
Right.
right?
Well,
And it all just, it's like a
that leads
loop.
to our second core value, which is accountability.
Yeah.
And accountability to ourselves and accountability to others. And for us, that's exactly what you just said. It's did we do what we say we're going to do, whether we promised it to ourselves or we promised it to a client or we promised it to a colleague.
Yeah, because whether you think you're hiding it or not, it's coming through. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? People might not like consciously notice it, but
Yeah.
subconsciously, you pick up on these things. And
Yeah.
that's why, like, when you're around somebody with integrity, you act different around them.
Mhm.
You want to be different around them,
Mhm.
because they hold themselves to a certain standard. I love that. So, okay, let's just welcome everybody here. So, this is the Unstuck movement. These are true testimonies of breakthrough. So, I bring people on the show who've had these incredible breakthroughs, like I said a few minutes ago, to show you it's possible for you in your life. If you're stuck somewhere in life, it is possible to get unstuck. But oftentimes we need examples. We need models of like, oh, wow, this person was in a really tough spot. They made it through and look where they're at now, right? So I want to have this example today as you're watching or listening. We're sponsored by the Connected Leaders Academy. Make sure you check out connectedleadersacademy.com. Over 400 heart-centered servant leaders from all over the world helping one another. Check it out, connectedleadersacademy.com. And also, if you want to be the go-to authority in your field, the expert at what you do, you want to leave a lasting impact on people's lives and build incredible connections for you in your industry, I encourage you to launch your own platform, launch your podcast. You can go to robzwentz.com and join the Pro Podcaster Academy. Join that wait list right now at robzwentz.com. Betsy Pepine with us today is a serial entrepreneur and founder of Pepine Realty, recognized by Inc. 5000 and the Wall Street Journal as a top real estate company. She's passionate about philanthropy and also founded Pepine Gives to support at-risk families. So, Betsy, I just want to thank you again for being here. And why we talk about the Unstuck movement, right? So there had to have been a place in your life where you were stuck, that you felt maybe you were not able to overcome something. And that oftentimes leads to incredible breakthrough. That takes a mess in your life, turns it into a message. And those are the themes I hear a lot on this podcast. So what was something for you where you were really stuck that made integrity and accountability so important for you in your life and business?
I had probably two moments of being critically stuck in my life and had to, like you said, turn a mess into a message. One was when I was 32, living in Philadelphia. My daughters were 1 and 2, and I had a great career in the pharmaceutical industry. My daughters were infants and had married my childhood sweetheart, and all was good. And within a very short period of time, I found myself suddenly single and downsized from the corporate world. The company that I was with was a biotech company, and our one product company did not get FDA approval. So we had nothing to commercialize, and they shut down the whole commercial division, of which I was a part of. So that was, really the rug being pulled out from under me. At the time, I was sitting on a 3-legged stool. My three pillars in my life were my marriage, my children, and my job. And when 2 of the 3 are pulled out from under you, you're sitting on a 3-legged stool, and two legs are gone. You land on the floor. And I ended up moving back home to Philadelphia, from Philadelphia to Florida, where I was raised. And when I say I moved back home, I moved back into my childhood bedroom in my parents' house. I was 32. My daughters were living, sleeping in my sister's rooms down the hall. What were my sister's rooms growing up? And it took me about 6 months to really ground myself and understand what was happening and my role in it. And that did cause me, my marriage ended in issues of fidelity, and that to me is non-integrous. And so I felt even more strong. I mean, I grew up in a family where that was a core value. So integrity has always been one, but being on the other side of it and knowing how it feels is just, I would never want anyone to have to feel that, and me being the cause of that. So it only strengthened that value for me. But it was a true blessing, because now 50 some years later, I'm not sorry, 30 some years later, no, 20 some years later, I'm 56. I'm in a spot I would never be in. I have a thriving, several companies. I am so happy. That would have never happened. I would have never been an entrepreneur. I was in the corporate world, was working for big pharma. I would have probably stayed there, and I wasn't happy in that role. And I did feel a little bit of a disconnection, because while I loved part of what I did, which was marketing pharmaceuticals, I didn't have a passion for the actual products. I liked the methods we were using. It was just at the advent of direct to consumer. So direct to consumer advertising on television, radio, that was really exciting for me to be a part of. But I didn't feel like I had any connection to the product, and honestly didn't feel like I didn't care about the sales. And I thought, this is not a good fit if I'm in marketing, and I really didn't care. And not in a flippant way, just it wasn't a passion of mine. I didn't connect to it. They weren't disease states that I was personally affected by. So when I moved back home, I thought, you know what, now is the time. I'd always loved real estate. I did feel like God was sending me a message, like what I thought I was supposed to be doing. I came from a healthcare background, so I thought this is what I was supposed to be doing. Maybe that wasn't what I was supposed to be doing. Maybe I should have been following my passion all along. And God gave me the scenario in which to have the courage and strength to do that, because I had nothing else to lose. I felt like I'd lost so much. What's the worst that could happen now? I don't have a job. I don't have a job now. So it was just a true blessing in retrospect. And so that was probably my first unstuck moment. And it did take a lot of soul searching, understanding my life pillars, rebuilding my life from the ground up, and really starting from there's like a wheel of life exercise that's popular. You can find it online, but identifying what your core pillars are in your life. And 6 to 8 seems to be the magic number. Faith and spirituality tend to be on the list for people, health, relationships, career, giving back, contribution, some aspect of growth. And so really identifying what was important to me and having goals in those areas, and really building up those pillars, so that when I'm thrown a curveball, I don't land on my bottom again, and I can recover more quickly. So that was probably my first unstuck moment.
And that's huge too, because you got to sometimes, not that you want to, but sometimes you're forced to go backwards to go forwards, right? Mm-hmm. If things aren't set up, like you said, maybe God wanted to realign your life, or these moments led to an opportunity to realign your life, right? Mm-hmm. Now it's a chance to set things up on a solid foundation, right? Because if we're not built on a solid foundation, like talking about integrity, right? If we're not built on integrity, man, then everything on top of that's like teetering on crumbling at any time.
Yeah.
And something that comes up on this podcast over and over and over again too is there's things in life that we end up doing that we might be good at, but they drain us, and we don't have like a real passion for them. And I think in life also, sometimes in our society, passion and purpose get talked about a bit too much. It's kind of like it's thrown around a lot, but there is something really important to being fully aligned with the thing you're doing on a daily basis if you want to make a giant impact in your career, in your industry. Mm-hmm. And so going from something that you were good at, but you didn't necessarily have a passion for, into stepping into something that you are good at, but you also get energy from it. It doesn't drain you. It fills you up. That's everything.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah.
It changes how you show up for work every single day.
Yeah. It's not work. I truly don't feel like I work.
Well, how do you encourage somebody, without going through all the pain, which the pain is part of the growth, but how do you encourage somebody, maybe they're on that path of they are really good at something. It's making them a lot of money, but it is eating them alive because they hate it. They don't like it. To transition into the thing they love to do that gets them excited to wake up in the morning. Do you have advice for people on that front of how do you go after that?
Yeah, I mean, well, first step is awareness. I didn't even know how unhappy I was. I could feel it in my body, but I didn't know the extent of my unhappiness in my industry until after I left it. And I never would have given myself permission because I was the primary breadwinner. I had the healthcare benefits and the other benefits that go along with being in big pharma. It was a stable, what I thought was a stable job and career. And it could have been if I had stayed up there. But so I would have never given myself permission to leave that to pursue my passion. I know myself. And at that time, there's no way I would have felt like that was the responsible thing to do. So first is awareness that there is a disconnect. And second, giving yourself permission to explore other avenues that could work for you. And understanding that that's probably the best for everybody around you when you do that. But then if you can do those, then I think it's just a matter of I'm all about plans. And so having a plan and baby steps, small changes, whether the gap might be an educational gap, maybe you need some mentors, maybe you need to build a financial nest egg to be able to make that move. Maybe there's ways you can make that move gradually, start interning, shadowing, et cetera, on the side. So you get up and running and ramp that up. We do that with our own agents. When agents come to join us, a lot of times they can't cut that umbilical cord of their day job, but they want to. And so we line a plan out for them how they can do that gradually. And over 6 months' time, the goal is to have them weaned off of that primary job that they're unhappy with. So those would be the first steps I would recommend for someone who's contemplating that.
Yeah, and that is a huge piece. That's the thing I throw in also, because you mentioned mentorship is something I want to get into because it's so important, and that's why I became a coach, because I had a mentor, then I got a coach, and that helped me to like transition where I wanted to go, because it's hard to do it on your own. It's hard to, I mean, not saying you can't, because we can, but it's really beneficial to have somebody, like you said, awareness. It can be really hard to have self-awareness of where you're at and where you need to go. When you bring in a third party who like sees you without all of your emotions, they can like truly see what's going on, and they can point you in the direction to help you move much faster. And that is so beneficial because it can take you so much longer to realize that on your own. Do you feel like you were somebody who was always self-aware, or did you have to build that awareness in for yourself?
I feel like I was born self-aware, but I don't feel like more self-aware than a lot of people. But I feel like what I lacked was the permission to give myself to do what I wanted to explore versus being confined by the boxes that I felt like were being imposed on me. And I didn't question those boxes. And so for a long time, I was very unhappy, but didn't understand why.
How did you give yourself permission to break out of the boxes? Because that is hard to do. Like, you can say it, but like, how do you actually give yourself that permission?
Yeah. Well, that's my second unstuck moment. I got into real estate, and then I've been in real estate now 19 years. About 6 or 7 years ago, I started to feel unsettled, and I couldn't figure out why, because here I'm in the job, in the career that I want. My businesses are thriving. I truly don't feel like I work, but I'm not happy. And I've had external success, but I was not happy. And again, for me, it took me a year to even admit that I wasn't unhappy, because I see so much around me, and I'm like, what do I have the right to even, I don't want to say complain, but be unhappy? How do I even have that right? And then after I accepted the fact that I'm not sure if I have the right or not, but I am unhappy, and I'm going to address it because I don't want to live the rest of my life like this. It was funny, around that time, I was scrolling through the internet, and I saw a picture of this girl on the internet, And it's a picture of a girl. She looks like she's about 4 years old, and she's in a bathing suit outside on some lush green grass. And her legs and her arms are spread out as wide as can be. Her face has this pure, unbridled joy, a smile so big. And across her body, it says, "Remember her. She's still there inside you, waiting. Let's go get her." And I was drawn to this picture. As you can see, I had it printed on canvas. I had it as my screensaver on my computer and on my phone. I had it on my wall in my office and in my home office. And it's like, I wanted that. And somehow I had, I don't know, somehow I could get there. I didn't know how. About a year later, we were hunkering down for a hurricane here in Florida, as we normally do. And I always have a project, and that particular project was going to be, because in hurricane season, you invariably don't go to your office, power goes out, etc. So anyway, my project was to put photos that I had just stuffed into boxes into photo albums that I had purchased. And sure enough, within a couple of hours after the storm started, power goes out. It's nighttime. I light my candles and I get out my photo boxes and I start this project. And a couple hours later, I've got all the photos in, the albums, and I take the boxes to the trash can. And as I'm putting the last box in, I noticed that there's a photograph turned down, but I can't see, it's dark. I can't see what the photo is. And so I pull it out and I take it next to a candle. And I look at that photo and I thought I had been struck by lightning. And it wasn't from the storm outside. It was looking at that picture, ran with the candle in the picture to my home office next to this picture, which was hanging on my wall. And I looked back down at that photo. That photo was a picture of a 4-year-old girl in her favorite one-piece bathing suit, jumping over a wave in the Atlantic Ocean towards her father, like she was kind of trying to hug the wave. Face has pure, unbridled joy. And on the bottom of that photo, it said Betsy, aged 4, in my mother's.
Oh, wow.
And I thought, oh my gosh, like I was that, at one point, and somehow I had lost my way. And so I just began this journey of figuring out what had happened. And when I journaled and I meditated and I went to therapy and I did hot yoga and I did EMDR, I did a variety of different modalities, prayer, church. And the common theme was that I was where I felt disconnected was when I felt confined by family of origin boxes, boxes in my industry, boxes based on my gender, boxes based on society, culture, my peer group, what was expected of me because I was X or whatever. And I didn't feel like I was living my authentic self. And so through that journey and through baby steps, I started breaking out of the boxes that were not empowering me and not making me feel like I was living my true self. I feel like that was my second unstuck moment, but the most important one, because it's a progress. I haven't arrived, but it's definitely a progress. And I'm so much more content now and feel so much more authentic now than I ever have been.
Wow. I love that story. That is really cool. Seeing that photo.
Yeah.
And then finding the photo as you're about to throw the box away and it matches the photo.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Crazy.
That's really amazing. And that's so true, because I always ask people the question, what did they want to be when they were 10 years old? If you feel stuck in your career, it doesn't mean you have to go do the thing you wanted to be when you were 10 years old. But when you were 10, you were old enough to know what you liked without needing a reason to like it. And you were young enough, the world hadn't influenced you so much to talk you into not doing the things you love to do. And there's a sweet spot there, right? So it doesn't mean like the thing that you necessarily wanted to do at 10 is exactly what you should do, but there's elements of why you loved that thing so much that you need to go after those elements, because they leave clues of like, that's what truly makes you feel happy and alive. And so that's really cool that you found that photo, because it took you back to that feeling. You want to get back to that feeling of being a kid and just loving life because it's life.
Right.
So real quick, we got to shout out to the sponsors of the show. When we come back, though, I want to talk about mentorship, because that's really important. And I know you have a major mentor in your life. Barbara, how do you say her last name? Corcoran. Barbara Corcoran from Shark Tank, right? So she became a mentor of yours, and that greatly impacted you. So I want to talk about the power of mentorship and how that transformed and changed your path in just a minute. Are you struggling to make consistent, valuable content for yourself? Do you want to have an efficient and effective way to create content that attracts the people that you want to connect with in life, the people you want to build relationships with in business? Do you want to be the go-to authority at what you do, at what you're great at? Would it be helpful for you if you had a platform that connects you to incredible people in your industry? The kind of platform that gets you leads and lands you clients without you having to beat down anybody's door or blow up anybody's inbox. Whether you're already creating content or you're desiring to start and it's something that's been kind of burning inside of you for a while, I urge you and encourage you to check out the Pro Podcaster Academy. Get started right now. Join the waitlist at robzwentz.com.
Hi, my name is Jose Escobar, and I'm the founder and CEO of the Connected Leaders Academy. We're a growing tribe, a community of entrepreneurs all over the world globally. If you're an entrepreneur and you're looking to grow personally and professionally, scale your influence, develop your skill sets, move the needle in your business, more clients, more money, more profit, the bottom line, and of course, grow your circle and your network like never before, join the Connected Leaders Academy today. Check me out on Instagram and on Facebook, the @ JASCO25. We look forward to having you join us. Take care.
So, Betsy, just an awesome conversation. I want to talk about mentorship. What do mentors mean to you in your life? And how did Barbara come into your life as a mentor?
Mentors are instrumental in my life. I've always felt like we don't need to reinvent the wheel. There's always people who have done what we want to do, and they want to help us. I think there's just a definite human need to want to help. And so I feel like I've had mentors, and I don't know where that originally came from, but when I did the Wheel of Life exercise in my 30s and identified those 6 to 8 life pillars, for me, I like to have a mentor in each of those life pillars, because I don't believe like a mentor in my business life can be the same as in my spiritual life or in my health journey. They have to be, they don't have to be, but they're often different people because everybody has different unique skills. So I always try to pick a mentor in each of those life pillars that I have made for myself. And I like to have 2 types of mentors. One, a mentor that's just a couple steps ahead of me, maybe a year or 2 ahead of me. So it's tangible. I'm very visual in terms of concepts in my mind. And so I want to be able to see that. And if I'm seeing somebody else in my community or relatable doing it, then I know I can do it. But then I also like to have a far out mentor. Like that's Barbara Corcoran for me. It's somebody who is, years ahead of me. So I like to have both of those. I think they serve 2 different needs for me. Barbara Corcoran came to be, I don't like to say out of the blue. I believe everything is for a reason, but the person that I was buying my ad spend from for radio and television, my agent, he lives in New York City, and Barbara lives in New York City, and he knows Barbara. So he asked Barbara if she was be interested in this kind of arrangement, and she was. And so that was probably 8 or 9 years ago now. And it was really nice for me because Barbara, a lot of people don't know, one, she had this thriving, one of the top real estate agencies in New York City, and then lost it in a divorce and rebuilt from the ground up and created the #1 agency in New York City again. And then as a single mom, and then sold it. And then she strategically reinvented herself because when she sold it, she was known primarily for real estate, but she knew that if she wanted to have a long career, she wanted to expand that definition of her. And so she wanted to become more of an entrepreneur. And so she applied to Shark Tank and almost got rejected. She was verbally accepted. And then there's a beautiful letter that she shared. So the producers called her and said they're taking another direction. And she couldn't believe it because they originally, they only wanted to have 1 female and the 4 male. I think it's 4 males and 1 female, or 3 males and 1 female, whatever. But they only wanted 1 female. She wrote them a letter back and said, I don't like to be stood up for the prom kind of thing. And please let me just come and do a live audition. I think you'll see the need to have 2 females on your show. So there's always 2 females in the seats. And sure enough, they flew her out. She did phenomenally, and then she's now a Shark Tank. And then watching her really expound on that has been just a huge blessing in my life to have somebody like that do it before me. She's now in her mid-70s, and seeing her, continually break those ceilings is really inspiring.
I love what you said earlier too, because it's really important when it comes to mentorship and coaches. And I'm in the same boat. So I was like, okay, I'm on the right path here. I have a mentor he's 40 years ahead of me, right? So he's somebody he's 80, I think he's 86, and he's achieved so much in his life and just like wants to like give back now. So just like sitting with him and learning from him's incredible. And then I have another mentor who is, I'd say he's probably 3 or 4 years ahead of me, and really crushing it. And both of those, yeah, because one is tangible, like, oh, this guy, he's a couple years ahead of me. I can get to where he's at, just kind of following in his footsteps. The other guy, it's like, wow,
Yeah.
this guy's a lifetime ahead of me. So I noticed with him, a lot of like the wisdom that he gives me, it takes years for it to soak in. That he's told me 5 years ago that I'm just now like, oh yeah, oh, that makes sense.
That's neat.
It takes a long time for it to hit your brain. Like, oh, I actually really get that.
Yeah.
So,
well, one other thing though I would like to mention about mentorship is like, I do feel that we have an obligation to also, we're always looking ahead, but also look behind and see who's coming up and who needs a mentor, and be willing to mentor them and seek out opportunities to be a mentor for those that are maybe a couple steps behind us.
Absolutely. Yes, for sure. What do they say? You should always, have a mentor, be a mentee, or be mentoring somebody, have somebody mentoring you. Then also, mastermind groups, things like that, people around you that are kind of on your level that are all growing together. And I was curious about, philanthropy and you starting giving back. When did that become a part of what you did too? Because I know it's a big part of what you do now.
Yeah. So giving back has always been a part of who I am, but merging it with my business was not. And that was an eye-opening moment when I first started my brokerage. My first hire was a woman who I had worked with at another company, and she had left the area but had recently moved back. Anyway, I hired her, and within a year, maybe a year and a half, we were so busy. None of us had a vacation in quite a while. And I was going on my first vacation with my girls, and a couple of days before, she tells me that she's quitting. And I was like, oh my goodness, let's sit down. Let's have an exit interview. I knew about those from my pharma days. And I was like, tell me why. And one of the reasons she gave me was there were no opportunities to be involved with the community. And I was like, oh my goodness, like I do that all the time. But I had put my own company in a box. Like, to me, a company is where you work or where they worked, and then you go home to your family and you volunteer and give back to the community. And I had never been in a company that those two worlds collided, and I never even thought about merging those two. And so she did end up leaving, but I ended up creating a core value of service in my company, because it was so important. It was so important to her that she left, and I didn't want that ever to happen to me again. And so for years we did service projects throughout the community. We always ask the employees and staff, what are they passionate about? Because I didn't want it to be just about what I was passionate about. And then several years in, we decided as a company to change that core value from service to impact, because the whole point of us doing service is we wanted to make an impact in the community. And we started to narrow our focus into housing, because that's what we did in our day-to-day job. And we wanted to help people who probably will never use a realtor in their lives, people who don't have housing. And so we created the foundation, Pepine Gives. We raise our goal, and we've done it for the last 3 years. We raise $50,000. That's what it costs to sponsor a home for a family. And then we help build the home alongside with Habitat for Humanity. We meet the families. We build the homes alongside the families. They have to work 240 hours on their home, and then we get to dedicate the house to them. And so it just comes full circle. I mean, I feel like we're helping people in the same industry that we're in that will never use our services, and we're addressing affordable housing in our state. Our county is the most cost burdened county in the state of Florida. The median income and the median housing rental income, the rental wage that you need, there's such a disparity that so many people cannot, they even struggle renting. And they're now living with family. They're moving further from the center city. They're moving into mobile homes because they just can't afford a home anymore, like a single family, home. And so we help address that problem.
Incredible. I love that. Amazing. I just love hearing your story and all that you've done. It's really a story of breakthrough. That's what we love to tell here on this podcast, because those stories of breakthrough are everything. So we need these examples in our lives. So I want to encourage people, if they want to learn more about you, Betsy, thank you, number one, just for sharing your story with us. But if they want to learn more about you, be a part of your newsletter, they can subscribe right now. Betsy at betsypepine.com. They just shoot you an email.
It'll be up on the website soon, or they can go to Pepine or betsypepine.com. And they'll find my book there, but the newsletter, just send me an email.
Very cool. Awesome. Great stuff. It's amazing what you're doing. So thank you for doing what you do. I want to remind everybody, if you want to be the authority in your space, you want to launch your platform, go to robzwentz.com. And Betsy, I just want to leave the floor open for you as we end this episode. Is there anything you want to leave the audience with before we sign off?
Well, just a brief mention of, I did write a book about breaking boxes and my journey of exploring all the different kind of boxes that I had found myself in, and how I negotiated in, through, and out of them. And it's called Breaking Boxes, Dismantling the Metaphorical Boxes That Bind Us. And it's available on my website, as well as Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the major bookstores.
Amazing. Thank you for all that you do. Thank you for being here today with a great story of breakthrough. This has been another episode of the Unstuck Movement.